Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, then turn that notification button on right now.
Professional wrestling, as it's often said, is a young man's job. The amount of toll your body takes, taking bumps almost every night, cannot be undermined, and it often leaves the WWE stars in excruciating pain and agony. The damage from working WWE schedule for years often results in stars retiring early and living the rest of their lives in pain. Saying that most of WWE talent don't mind the long hours, the tedious journeys, or the hours of hard work in the gym, sculpting their bodies to near perfection. But there comes a time when their bodies just cannot take the stress anymore, and they decide to call it a quits for their career and walk away into the sunset. 2019 could be the year for numerous wrestlers. My name is John, and in this video we take a look at 10 wrestlers who could retire from the business in 2019. The writing has been on the wall for the Gentle Giant for years. While people have written him off for over a decade, Big Show kept proving his critics wrong. While he's been in the business for nearly 3 decades, Show has never looked better and is arguably in the best shape of his career physically. However, no one can win against Father Time, and the former WWE champ knows that all too well. While the Big Show has been training regularly in the gym, the young blood in WWE have taken all the available spots, and the Giant might have a hard time finding relevant role on air, and could possibly retire next year and even get inducted into the Hall of Fame. On top of all this, with his experience, the Big Show could become a road agent and help the younger talent with their craft. With his expertise as a big guy working in the company, he has an invaluable asset to the organization. There are very few female wrestlers with the talent and pedigree that Natalya possesses. Not only did she train out of the dungeon, she traveled all over the world before coming to WWE, improving her in-ring skills, and is one of the best pure wrestlers on the planet. And on another note, Natalya has had to deal with changes in the company, with more emphasis being given to the divas, and while that period is now over, she has lost some of her best years jobbing to mediocre talent. Natalya and Charlotte Flair have had great chemistry together, and with WWE bringing more female stars from NXT, with the likes of Ronda Rousey being set to become one of the biggest female stars in the company, there's a good chance the Queen of Hearts would be forced to retire next year. With her technical know-hows and her experience, Natalya could take up a role as a trainer at the Performance Center or in NXT. Speaking of underrated talent, the Bizarre One has definitely made his mark in the company. As a singles competitor, Goldust was a good mid-card talent, and in the late 90s was one of the top contenders for the IC title. But it almost felt as if his gimmick restricted his ascension in the company, and Goldust was relegated to a mere comedy act once the invasion angle began. There were a few bright spots over the years where WWE had the opportunity to truly get behind Goldust. WWE could have done more with the rivalry between Goldust and Cody Rhodes, and the program between Goldust and R-Truth was dropped inexplicably, and the company never even bothered to address the rivalry again. In hindsight, one can understand WWE's thought process, and the rivalry between the two comedy acts wasn't something the fans would have wanted to see or even dearly missed. Bearing all this, Goldust might want to consider hanging up his boots in 2019 and help with the younger talent instead. Alberto Del Rio has accomplished a lot in his pro wrestling career. The superstar won the WWE title and the World Heavyweight Championship in WWE. He's also a former GFW Global Champion, yet it has been proven time and time again he is not everyone's cup of tea and has had multiple run-ins with management. For years, Del Rio has been saying that he doesn't see himself wrestling for a long time and would be willing to retire by 2019. The fact that he walked away from WWE and Impact Wrestling on bad terms would suggest that the superstar would not return to either organization, at the very least anytime soon. As a matter of fact, Del Rio was also the president of an MMA promotion that focuses on the Hispanic market that has been involved in other projects outside of the wrestling business. While he may have recently signed with AAA in Mexico, 2018 may very well be his final year as an active wrestler. The Devil's Favorite Demon makes sporadic appearances on WWE television and was last seen during the build-up to WrestleMania match between John Cena and The Undertaker. While Kane has been a mainstay in WWE for the past 2 decades, he started focusing on his day job as an insurer and has also prioritized his political aspirations, which forced him to stay away from programming for the major part of the past 2 years. Kane has been one of the unsung heroes in WWE, who has been great for the company's growth, but never received his due credit. The superstar underwent numerous transformations during his time with WWE, and never backed down from putting the other superstar over, something that isn't common in the wrestling business. Given his projects outside of wrestling and his political aspirations, Kane will likely retire from the WWE in 2019. If there is one superstar that keeps reinventing himself to stay relevant at any time, it has to be Chris Jericho. For a star that has started his career back nearly 3 decades ago, Jericho seems to still be in his prime, and recently put on one of the best matches of the year against Kenny Omega. Jericho has donned many hats over the years and has excelled at everything he decided to put his mind to. Most recently, Jericho did an interview where he said he was hitting his peak, and believes the thought of him retiring this year would be premature. Jericho was even scheduled to face The Undertaker during WWE's upcoming tour of Saudi Arabia, but the match has now been nixed. However, the Alpha superstar has been busy with his other projects, and given his age and his schedule, he might consider calling it a day as a pro wrestler next year. Jericho already has his plate full with Fozzy doing remarkably well, his podcast now becoming one of the most popular in the world, and his newest venture, the Chris Jericho Rockin' Wrestling Rager at Sea, which will set sail in October this year. All of this should really keep him busy. What do you guys think is next for Chris Jericho? Let me know in the comments. Whenever Lesnar's WWE contract nears its expiration, the superstar uses UFC as a pawn to get a more lucrative contract. That has been the norm over the past few years, and while Lesnar hates the hectic WWE schedule, he is now in position to make millions of dollars for just working a handful of dates. A big payday awaits the current Universal Champ whenever he decides to fight in the UFC. Lesnar and UFC President Dana White have all but confirmed Lesnar's return, with only the time and opponent being the uncertainties. Brock understands that he doesn't need WWE anymore, and there are rumors that Lesnar is not happy with Vince McMahon because of the finish of WrestleMania 34 with Roman Reigns. Putting all that speculation aside, Brock is a hot commodity in MMA, and could easily earn twice the amount of money that he makes in WWE annually, with just a single fight in UFC. We might see Brock walking away from WWE in 2019 to focus completely on his UFC career. For decades, AJ Styles has been one of the best wrestlers on the planet. When he finally made his WWE debut, the fans around the world rejoiced as they could finally see the phenomenal one in WWE. However, Styles is not young, and the amount of toll and punishment his body has taken over the past 2 decades can come back to haunt the superstar. Even at the age of 40, Styles is still one of the best workers in the company. But with the last year, Styles has given an interview where he talked about retiring in a couple of years' time. While the WWE Champion denied those rumors on Twitter, there is still a good chance we might not see AJ Styles in a WWE ring post-2019. Every pro wrestler has a shelf life, and there's a good chance AJ Styles could hang up his wrestling boots upon his contract expiring in 2019. Over the past few years, John Cena has stepped away from his role as the flag bearer of WWE and has shifted his focus onto other projects. The 16-time world champion has seen his role reduced in the company, and with the rise of new stars such as Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, Cena has been able to take time off the company to focus on his acting career. For over a decade, the leader of the C Nation has been a constant in the company. From main eventing WrestleManias to working house shows and TV tapings, Cena has given his blood, sweat, and tears to the organization. But John knows that his time as a pro wrestler is coming to an end, and he is in the twilight of his WWE career. Many expect Cena to call it a day after next year's WrestleMania, and if Cena decides to walk away from the company, it would give him a much-deserved rest, and he would go down in the history books as one of the greatest superstars of all time. At WrestleMania 33, the fans believe The Undertaker competed in his final WWE match, as the old gunslinger left his ring gear inside the squared circle. However, the dead man would rise from the grave for WrestleMania 34, and with WWE announcing The Undertaker's return at the Greatest Royal Rumble, it is now being speculated The Undertaker would take part in a few more matches this year. According to multiple reports, The Undertaker is expected to compete at WrestleMania 35, after which the old warhorse will leave the business for good. Taker has been a cornerstone in the company, and his absence will leave a major void in the wrestling business, saying that The Undertaker has given everything he's had and deserves to reap the rewards of his hard work. Unlike Hogan and Flair, The Undertaker wouldn't want to wrestle well into his 50s and 60s, and will likely go into the darkness next year. And these are 10 wrestlers who can retire in 2019. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more wrestling videos.